Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Shifting from Grudge to Grit, Grace, and Gratitude. I am Anissa, and my beautiful co host is also joined, Jamila. And we have a special guest all the way from Toronto, Canada. And we just discussed that it's 9:30 a.m. there this morning, I think, Eastern Time. So we're very
Yes.
grateful that Michael has agreed to show up today to have this conversation, a very important conversation around mindset that matters. I'm going to first let you say hello, Jamila and Michael, and then I'll introduce a bit of your bio to the audience afterwards.
Hello, everybody, and we're back to the end of the week again, and it happened in a split second, it feels like. A lot of people have gone back to work and gone back to school from the holidays, and we are just so grateful today to be welcoming Michael. I had a read through your bio, and I'm so excited about today's topic and listening to all the tricks and tools that you have to help us to navigate through our lives. So, Michael, without any further ado, I'll leave it over to you to say hi to our guests this afternoon.
Well, thank you, ladies. It is a pleasure to be here. As you said, my name is Michael Dorang. I am a career mindset and burnout coach. So, mindset is a large part of what I do with my clients, and I'm very much looking forward to our conversation today. And thank you for having me on.
Thank you, thank you. So here's a little bit about Michael. Grew up in grew up in a family where emotions were not validated or even spoken of. I think many of us can connect and relate to that one. Working on his own spiritual and personal development to rid himself of the effects of a traumatic childhood and addiction. After a long corporate career in purchasing, he became a life coach, as he's just said. Now, Michael helps professionals who feel trapped in a position they once loved to rediscover their passion and purpose again. He helps people move away from symptoms of burnout, which is very much connected, I suppose, to mental health and well being. Hence, I am so inspired to hear what you're going to talk to us about. And what I really want to start with really is tell us a bit about your own journey. I think our audience absolutely loves to hear everyone's hero's journey and, what were those battle scars that you had to take on to get to this point where you are today?
hmm Well, from the outside, when I was growing up, it looked pretty much like a very typical childhood. I grew up in a working town in the United States. It was a smaller town by U.S. standards. There were only about 30,000 people there, and it was a town based on industry. So it was just one of those like standard working towns. I grew up in a large family. I'm one of 6 children. Um, but my first sort of connection with mental health, and I'll just say trauma, was that when I was 18 months old, my parents had a set of twins. So I'm the third. So they already had 2 children and then me, and then they had a set of twins. So my mother at the time was a bit overwhelmed. But as an 18-month-old child, I didn't see that my mother was being overwhelmed. What I saw was that her attention was taken away from me. So that sort of colored pretty much my entire life. I was always, I always felt disconnected from, I always felt apart from. And really, in essence, this is something that I discovered about myself actually quite recently, is that because I felt ignored at that point in time, I basically made myself ignorable. I played small, I hid all the time. So when you take that kind of mentality into adulthood, what it brings with it is a lifetime full of fear. my whole entire life just ran on fear. I was afraid of everything. So in order to cope with that fear, I started drinking. And this is my journey into addiction and recovery.
Mhm.
And when you start using outside sources like that to fix what's on the inside, it never really works. And I became addicted to alcohol. Luckily, I found my way out of addiction, and I've been in recovery for many, many, many years now. But again, all of these things color my journey. So through addiction, I got introduced to certain modalities of sort of personal growth and personal development. And actually being in a step program is very beneficial because it kind of gives you a framework of
Hmm.
how to think and live and how to relate to other people. And that was like really beneficial for me, but I was still in that kind of hiding place. So I was never really pushing myself. I never really had big goals, that type of thing. And I found a career. I was in purchasing. I worked for a very large retailer for many, many years. I was with that company for 26 years. During that time, I went through like midlife crisis, which was not at all fun at all. If anyone has gone through that, it is horrible for a lot of people, and mine was too. And I didn't have any sort of emotional base because of the way I grew up, because my family never spoke about emotions. And a lot of men of my generation get this. It's like whenever you're angry, whenever you're sad, whenever you're feeling anything, you're told, well, just man up. It's like big boys don't cry, all of that kind of stuff. We're told that emotions don't matter, just push them aside and disregard them. So going through all of these things in my life where they're very highly emotional, I had no basis for dealing with them. It's just compounded everything. Then in its wisdom, the universe decided that I needed to get help and I wasn't going to do it myself. So it decided to, as I say, kick me in the head so that I would have to get help. And unfortunately, about, I'll say 18 years ago now, we had a horrific year between my family, my wife's family, our close friends. We had 15 people pass away in the span of like 11 months.
Wow.
And you can't go through something like that on your own. You just can't. It's impossible. So I reached out to our minister at the time and started going through some spiritual counseling. Lucky for me, though, he was not. It didn't turn into religious counseling. It really was spiritual counseling. So he actually got me started on the road to like real personal, emotional, and creative development for myself. And I will be forever thankful for that. Now, in the middle of the pandemic, this company that I had worked for 26 years decided that they were going to restructure, and everyone that was long term, and as I said, I was there 26 years, got packaged out. So in the middle of the pandemic, I find myself like unemployed, absolutely nothing to do. Basically, it was quite a shock. So it took me a few weeks to kind of get my head wrapped around that. I was very depressed for a while. But at the end of it, coaching had always been in the back of my mind because I knew I wanted to do something that would help people, that would let me use my experience to help people advance. And coaching just seemed to be a natural fit. Once I made the decision that I was going to go into coaching, as I said, the universe works in mysterious ways, everything fell into place. I found a school right away. They had classes that were starting relatively quickly. and it was the kind of program that I was interested in. It was short term. It would, like, everything fell into place. So within 3 weeks of actually making the decision of becoming a coach, I was in class. I was in training. So that is how I became a coach. And that was in 2021. So I've been doing it for several years now.
Jamila, you want to kick off first? Anything
Yeah,
you
I
want
think
to first say to
yeah,
Michael?
absolutely. I think what we all have in common is that we've got a corporate background, and
Mhm.
life kind of kicks you in the head and pushes you in the direction of your purpose, doesn't it? Um,
Mhm.
and it can happen at any stage in your life, really. For me, I mean, it happened when I was like in my late 40s. Um, and that dynamic shift that you make, it almost just clicks you into alignment, and you feel like, wow, this is what I was meant to be doing. And I think that the experience that we've gotten from the corporate world is such a valuable piece of experience, because it allows us to be able to help people who are going through stress and burnout in this stage of their lives, and for us to understand it a lot better because we've experienced it ourselves. So it's I just continuously marvel at how the universe just works, and about the circle of life, and how we move into each phase or version of ourselves as and when we are meant to. And it might come as a kick in the head, or a gentle nudge by a caring friend, or whatever it is, but we move into that phase actually quite smoothly, and with flow and ease, because that's where we're meant to be. Anissa, over to you.
So, Michael, I can resonate with so many of your story. Thank you, firstly, for sharing it. I can resonate with not having that sense of belonging and not really knowing where you fit. And to have that at such a tender age is an adaptation, nonetheless, that we take on at that very early age. I just want to highlight that to those that are listening in. And some of the work that I get exposed to is understanding how we sabotage ourselves. And when we start to not know how we fit or belong, we go out into the world and we want to please everyone, and we want to be the hero, rescuer, savior in our relationships. But deep down, we actually just want to be seen and heard and understood and recognized and feel validated and feel witnessed. So for you, Michael, when you finally got to, I'm fast forwarding from that 18 months to when you finally got to the church, and I get that it wasn't religious and spiritual. It was the witnessing of that trauma. It was being validated that it was real. And I think it's such a profound gift when that is honored, when somebody says, I see you, Michael, and I recognize that you've gone through this. And whether it's an adaptation, an assumed adaptation that we've taken on, it still doesn't make it feel less than, right? Because you
Mhm.
highlighted that your mom was overwhelmed and she did the best she could with what she had in those moments. I'm a mom myself, and so is Jamila. So we don't always show up as our best selves as moms. We do the best that we can do. So the other thing I want to recognize in you is that even through, I can also relate to being in a restructure and being a primary breadwinner in my family, and then all of a sudden nothing. But it was the catalyst, right? Your catalyst being it is where you are today. And I often say to people, we cannot in those moments of darkness even envisage what the light would look like, because we're just going through the trauma of it all. But at the end of the day, it is exactly those experiences that shape us to be who we are today. So I just wanted to acknowledge you for sharing the journey, because you've been through a few dark night of the souls as early as 18 months, then the drinking and the addiction with that, then also the being laid off from work. But yet you stand tall today here, and I want to bring it back to the conversation around mindset. So through that time, what is the thing that kept you standing tall, even whilst you wanting to stay small in lots of those experiences?
It really does come down to how we perceive where we are, and that's all mindset. It is like, as coaches, we have these terms that we throw around a lot, and mindset is one of them. All mindset is really, it's how we think. It's the patterns that we've developed for ourselves. That's it. So when you take the most recent trauma that I've been through, when I got laid off from my position, I was very, very depressed because I had been there for 26 years. It was like a major, major portion of my life, and in like seconds it was taken away. There were days, like after that happened, when I was trying to cope with what was going on, where I was incredibly depressed. And there were some days where the only thing I did was feed myself. That was the only thing I could muster enough energy to do. Some days it was I fed myself and got a shower. And, when you're in that kind of state, I think that was really where I learned how powerful mindset could be, because even though I was in that like super depressed state, had no idea what was going to happen, where I was going to go from like where I was, had no like real energy, or couldn't see any kind of opportunity. At the end of the day, when I got to like where it was like time to go back to sleep again, if I could say, okay, I fed myself today, it was a good day. If I could keep it in that framework, then I knew that tomorrow might be a little better. So learning just that, mindset can be that powerful in that darkest of time was a great eye opener. And it's something that I use in my coaching today of, if you can just keep a positive mindset, if you can focus on the good things, and it won't make your situation any better, but it will make you feel better about your situation.
I love that.
Absolutely love that. Yeah, it is about a mindset, and it's also about knowing yourself and stopping and taking the time to acknowledge you. You said that for 26 years this is what you do, and then in a blink of an eye it's over. But 26 years is a long time, and we spend most of our time at work with our colleagues and friends, and it is a large part of what defines who we are. But I don't know if this is a case for you, but for me, Michael, my life was defined by the beginning part of it. My adult life was my role as a wife and a mother. And then it went on after my divorce as the breadwinner. And it was all about my career, and it was about progressing and being successful and being able to provide. But I don't think in any second of that time did I stop to think about what truly defined me and who I was, until that change came, where the universe pushes you and makes sure that you do stop and you do ask yourself the questions. And at that point, I realized I really didn't know who I was. I didn't know. And that really threw me, because it put me into a little bit of a state of depression. And like you say, sometimes when you get up and you fed yourself, it's a good day. But when you're in that state of depression, it's very difficult for you to look for the good. It's very difficult for you to express the gratitude of even the smallest of things in life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think getting to know who you are and being appreciative and grateful for the little things, the fact that you can open your eyes, that you can move your hands and your feet, and you're able and capable of doing whatever it is that you put your mind towards, is a huge part of, like you say, that term of mindset and how it affects your life.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And um, one of the things that I always have my clients do when I start working with them is to start a gratitude practice if they don't already have one. Because to me, gratitude is the foundation of all of the growth that we experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, like when I got laid off, when that huge piece of my identity got ripped away, and it's a little bit different for men, I think, because we don't have that inner introspection that sometimes women are taught how to do. Like I said, I was never taught how to be emotional. I was never taught how to do all that inward looking. Now, I had been in personal development for several years before I got laid off. So I kind of had sort of a base to go on. But when you're a man and you meet someone new, the first question you get asked is, "What do you do?" That's the
Yeah.
first question. That's the biggest part of your identity that everybody wants to know. It's like, what do you do? So it is a huge part of your identity. And I think that there's kind of a break between the identity that we have for ourselves and the identity that we put out into the world. Now, for me as a coach, I feel very fortunate that for me in my circumstance, they're the same thing right now. You know, so who I am as a person is who I get to put out into the world. A lot of people don't have that. So I think that in a lot of ways, I'm very fortunate that I can do that.
Michael, I have the same sentiment. I echo that. And I have a peer coach that's sitting in Zambia. We always say when we do our debriefs, when we're in the mud of it all, because guess what? It doesn't mean we're coaches, that we're not in the mud of it at times. We're human. And so these experiences and the duality and polarities that we go through in life is going to hit us hard. What we have in our favor is all these tools and frameworks, but we also have a narrative and stories. And so, what I find, Michael, and I don't know if it's for you, is that these past stories, unless we've rewritten the script of these stories, we're almost building on to these past experiences and they become prevalent as if they're in the present. So, the moment we have a feeling of not belonging in a circle of friends or in an environment, or like you say, the moment there's a persona or prestige or status that we're not living up to, that might become a trigger. So depending on whatever those triggers are, I find that one has to be mindful of what story is it attached to.
Mm-hmm.
Because those stories never leave us, Michael. I don't know about you, but my stories of not belonging has never left me. I'm just not giving it so much of a voice like it did before. But if there is another dark night of the soul experience, and there always will be, because it's not once off, it's not linear. I mean, how do we then apply ourselves? What are those strategies that you would recommend that we consider when we get triggered again? Are you there?
Yeah, yes, I'm having some internet issues actually, unfortunately.
Okay. Oh, well, I thought it was my side because we have internet issues all the time. So go ahead. Did you hear that? My question then? No.
No,
Oh.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Okay. So what I was asking is, if we constantly attach ourselves to these stories of the past and that we get triggered in the present, what are the strategies and the mindsets that you would recommend we adopt? And what are some of your own that has held you firmly and more grounded when that narrative wants to repeat itself?
Hmm. Okay. Well, when I start talking about mindset, um, the first thing I say is that there are really two little words that can absolutely shift your mindset 180 degrees and really set you up for a mindset that's based on growth, a mindset that's based on expansion, and a mindset that is based on forward motion and really looking for more achievement. And those the first little word is yet. So when
Yes.
you, yes, it's such a powerful little word. It's like when you start hearing yourself say those negative things of I can't do this, just add yet.
Yes.
It's like I can't do this yet. I'm learning, but I can't do it yet. I will do it sometime later, but I can't do it at this moment. The other one is get. You know, if, stop saying that you have to do things. There are so many people in this world that don't get to do the things that we get to do. And the example I use is I have a friend who has had severe medical conditions his entire life. He is confined to a wheelchair, has been since he was an infant, and people say, well, I have to go make dinner. It's like, no, think about this. Think about my friend in his wheelchair. If he could just go to the kitchen and make himself something to eat, he would be ecstatic. You get to go make dinner. So looking at the world through just these little changes in perspective will really help to change your mindset. And creating a more positive attitude is a huge thing when you're talking about mindset. As people, we have a negative bias. We concentrate on the negative. And this goes back to when we were still living in caves, because the negative would kill you. If you had to exit the cave, you had to make sure that there was nothing dangerous around you, just in order to go outside. Well, we don't live in that type of world anymore, but we still have this negative bias where we're constantly looking for the danger.
Mm-hmm.
If you start reframing that, and when you have a challenge, when you have an issue that looks dangerous, if you start reframing that as to like using the word yet, what can I learn from this challenge? Even if you make a mistake, even if it's a huge mistake, it's like, okay, what can I learn from this? It's like, what was the process that led up to this? Where can I adjust it so that this doesn't happen again? Once you start thinking in those terms, it makes a huge difference in the way that you move through the world even.
Totally. Jamila, you want to come in there?
I love that. Yeah, I love that. And I love the whole concept of reframing, because it's just a matter of choice on how we look at ourselves, how we look at our lives, how we look at our successes. And it's just about looking at it through some sort of a positive light based on gratitude. And we so seldomly do that. We tend to take it for granted because we're busy chasing everything. We're busy chasing what we think we are meant to be, or who we are meant to be, or who society perceives us to be in considering us as successful people. So it's I love that about the reframing and the unlearning and relearning of the situation that we are in. And I think also it's absolutely imperative that we make that deliberate pause in our lives. Take the time to understand and realize all of the blessings that we have been granted. And it's like you say, it's not that you have to do anything, you get to do it. And if we look at it from that perspective, then we are persistently um, putting ourselves in a position to be constantly grateful.
Hmm. Yeah, and
You know, my
really,
yeah.
sorry, Anissa.
No, go for it.
Well, and really, to me, gratitude is the basis of all of this. And to have a solid daily gratitude practice, something that you do every single day, it takes a minute, maybe a minute and a half. Just get yourself a little notebook. And before you go to bed at night, write down three good things that happened to you that day. And it doesn't have to be, I'm working on saving the world. It could be that, you treated yourself to an ice cream. It could be that the coffee tasted good this morning.
Sure.
It could be that, you had a nice conversation with somebody in the elevator. It could be that somebody complimented the shoes you were wearing. They don't have to be big things, but you need to concentrate on the things that make you thankful just for being alive. You need to look at the things that create the positivity in your life that I think most people these days are lacking. And what that does is not only does that create that sense of gratitude, that sense of thankfulness, because I mean, let's face it, if you're not thankful for what you have, you're not going to get a whole lot more. It also sets up that positive attitude. When you can go into the world, when you start doing a gratitude practice and you start writing these things down, what happens is that you're actually training your brain so that when you're out in the world and you're out going through your day-to-day stuff, your brain is looking for things that are positive that you can write down. So you naturally become more positive because your brain's looking for it.
I agree. I was listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza. I love his work because he also says you cannot manifest from a state of lack and scarcity. You almost have to visualize this future as if it's already been realized, right? So whether it's a state you want to be in or a feeling or an emotion you want to have, you've got to almost train yourself to feel as if it's there already. And what I loved this morning, I was listening and he said, vision boards are great. And I like to call it a purpose and intention board because I feel that's more connected to me as in what I want to leave in this world. But when we see, and so when you say write down, it's when you're writing it down, you're sending a message, you're conveying a message to your brain. And because we are in this negative bias state, just generally, that's how the brain is designed, right? Searching for that saber-toothed tiger that's on our heels about to catch us. But if, for instance, I'll use the example of the storms that we've had here, lots of havoc, lots of debris. But at the same time, when all of this is happening around us, we could sit and have a pity party and go into a funk. I actually wrote a post about being in a funk or having the spunk. And I feel it's that for me, just find the goodness in every experience because the polarities of these experiences are never going to go away. And so the gratitude practice I love because it's finding the gifts, the magic, the wonderment in where is this meant to lead to. And I really appreciate that gesture of just being in that energetic vibration because you're not going to receive more or be in a state of receivership when you are, why me? Right? Because you spoke about the get. You took me back to my coach training about the yet, because that was also part of my training many years ago. And it was so uncomfortable all those years ago when they asked, what is something you really want to do? Like, dream big, just say whatever it is. And I couldn't get myself into that space because I was focused at the time around, but I can't get there or achieve this or accomplish that because I was focused on what I didn't have. But the yet is so powerful, Michael. I don't know where you've practiced it yet. And if you've been able to manifest by using that as a tool, tell me, have you been able to manifest anything by saying, I haven't yet, and gone back and say, I said I haven't yet, but I have now. Have you been able to?
It happens all the time. It happens all the time. And in particular, like when I was in that depressed period and trying to find what I was going to do with my life and was feeling totally lost, it was, when it finally struck me that I wanted to go into coaching, like my next thought was, well, who are you to do that? You have no idea what you're doing. And it was like, well, no, I don't know what I'm doing yet. And at that point, I hadn't had the training. I hadn't been going through all of the wonderful experiences that we get to have as coaches. It wasn't really on my radar, but it was that was the first thought. It's like, no, I don't know how to do it yet, but I'm going to learn. Like once I made the decision, it was, and like Jamila was saying, it's like once you find your purpose, this is absolutely 100% my purpose. This is what I am supposed to do. Once you find that, there is nothing that will stand in your way. And even when I didn't know the power of yet, I was still using it.
Now that's a very powerful thing to say, because even if you don't yet believe in it, say it anyway, practice it, getting into an energetic vibration of it, even if you don't yet fully believe it.
Yes, and even if you feel that you don't have the ability or the skills to do it, sometimes it kind of happens just naturally and without your knowledge also. Because like I remember a time when I was went through my life coaching course, and after that I was like, oh, now when am I going to get clients? How am I going to grow this business? When is it going to be successful? I don't have any clients yet. I'm not busy. And this is going on in my mind. And then I think in one split second, I think I might have read something, and it says, when you want to attract something, put it out there, believe that you already have it, and let the universe do its thing. And when you get caught up with other things and you start to put the work in, but you stop focusing and obsessing on the fact that of everything that you don't have, that space of lack, all of a sudden, without you even realizing, you create that shift. And I'm always taken back to that, to those thoughts when I was absolutely consumed by, am I going to make this work? Am I going to get enough clients? Anissa, there have been so many times where we've had conversations and we said, I am so busy. I'm so busy. I don't have time to sit down and have our breakfast or our lunch or whatever the case may be. But I'm constantly reminded of those days when I was wishing and wanting and doubting as to whether there was going to be success in this path of work for myself. So it's very important for us to also reflect and then be grateful and to express that gratitude. Reflection is a huge thing, because we get caught up then in this busy cycle of ours, and we tend to forget, right? But it's on the reflection that we start to appreciate and the gratitude in it.
Agreed. I know we're 40 minutes in, and I haven't acknowledged any of our guests that are listening in, and some of the comments
Anissa,
have not
I'm
filtered
missing
through.
Ronald.
I know, so apologies because the comments haven't filtered through as they normally do via StreamYard. So I'm going to read some comments. I'm going to greet those that are here on Instagram. Hello, Gail. Hello, Ian, Uzu. Thank you for joining us and always being here to support us. Andre has got a few comments here, Michael. Andre says, meditation allows mind to accept the freedom of silence by accepting noise within. Wow. Powerful, Andre, that I could not agree with more. Writing your thoughts and reading it to yourselves allows your inner perspective to be revealed. Andre, you're going to have to come on board and join us on the segment to come and talk more about this. And he says, life is in every breath. True. We underestimate what the simple breathing does for us. And he says, be thankful for every breath. Powerful. Anything you want to add to that, Michael? I mean, these are some powerful comments here.
The
noise now here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I am a big meditator. I've been meditating on a daily basis for years now. And in fact, when I became a coach, one of the things I did is I took a course on meditation and sort of got myself certified as an instructor. So to me, meditation is very important. It's part of my daily routine. It's something that I do every day for self-care. And that's another portion of this that is so important, is taking care of yourself. You know, like when you think about grit, grace, and gratitude, self-care is part of the grace part, where you need to treat yourself the same way that you would treat a loved one, because you are a loved one. So
beautiful.
Yeah, so you have to have. Yeah, I've caught myself a couple of times saying things like you have to and you need to, and that's really not my style. It's like I don't like giving advice like that. I really don't. But in my experience, meditation is something that is life-changing. And when I teach other people to meditate, I mean, everybody says, you know, oh, meditation is so hard and, you know, blanking your mind out and all that kind of stuff. It's not about blanking your mind out. It's about learning to let go. You know, so when you're meditating and you have your awareness on your breath, or if you use crystals or a candle or something, and you have your awareness in one place, you have these thoughts that come in and take your awareness away. Well, meditation teaches you that when that happens, you let go of those thoughts and bring your awareness back to where you want it. So it enables you to take all of the stuff that's happening outside, all of those things that are trying to get into your day and give you stress and give you issues and challenges and all that kind of stuff. Learning to meditate and learning to let go lets you let go of all of that too during your day. So it is like a very important part of my day. It sets me up for having a positive day, but it also allows me throughout the day that if something comes in that I'm not really prepared for and tries to interrupt me, I can let it go. And it's like, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I'll get to you later. I'm concentrating on this right now. So that's what meditation does for me.
Yeah,
Michael,
it's that deliberate pause, isn't it, Anissa? That deliberate pause that allows you to be present at any specific moment in time, which is a state that you want to constantly be in, because that's when you can truly and positively, authentically be yourself. And meditation doesn't, I mean, it comes in different forms as well for different people. You know, for me, meditation, yes, I love to do the guided meditations and sit down, but I need to constantly change it up. But one of my really effective forms of meditation, I find, is when I'm running. and it gives me that time on my own. It gives me the thoughts that I need to process at the time, and it gives me that solitude that I absolutely appreciate and value.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's being at the ocean. I don't believe it. Meditation needs to be, as you say, guided meditation or listening to music. It is when you can be in a place of calmness and balance and just be in allowance of whatever's in your space. And so, and being able to almost like filter out the noise, because there's always going to be noise. And those are the thoughts that Michael is referring to. We're not meant to just say that thoughts must go away. They won't. They're part of us. But we don't need to participate in it. So I find that when I'm at the ocean, it's the one thing that centers and grounds me. Or if I just stand on my balcony and I look out and I look at the mountain, and it's magnificence, and that kind of also grounds me, So it's those little things. It's the Michael, you were making such good examples earlier on in the little things. It's my 9-year-old's laughter. It's a form of meditation for me, knowing that my child is happy and content. So I don't necessarily feel it needs to be the rigid way of doing meditation or journaling. It is when you can come into center with your body and feel whatever sensations are coming up and still remain grounded. It takes practice. I'm not going to say it's easy, but I certainly have, through silent meditation retreats, Vipassana. I don't know if you're familiar with it, Michael, where you go into complete silence and you are actually asked to feel the sensations of your body. Because when we go back into the world again after that silence, you're going to have to adapt and just be, and not try and let anything cloud your judgment or overwhelm you, because that's what life is. It's always going to have chaos and destruction and noise. So I absolutely love that we're using these different examples here today so that the audience can understand that it doesn't just need to be one thing.
No, and when you have these practices, and they're called practices very intentionally, because it's not a once and done kind of thing, and you need to take time to learn how these practices, these behaviors are going to benefit you. And it also takes time in order to build them into habits. Like when I first started meditating, it wasn't a daily thing. And I mean, now when I sit down to meditate, it's going to be at least half an hour, if not an hour, every single day. But when I first started, it was a couple of minutes. It was 5 minutes here and there. Like I might have done it like once, maybe twice a week. But even with that little bit, I started seeing the benefits. So then it became more, and then I was doing it 4 times a week, and then daily, and then it went from 5 minutes to 10 minutes, and from 10 minutes to 20 minutes. It was built. It was a practice. It's like learning to play a musical instrument. You can't just pick up an instrument and be, a virtuoso on it. It takes time. It takes practice. It takes effort. It takes discipline. So all of these things that we're talking about, when you first start them, they're going to feel a little silly. They're going to feel a little odd to be doing them because they're new, but in order to take care of yourself, it's necessary to build these types of practices into your daily routine. And it doesn't matter if it's meditation or if it's journaling or if it's yoga or if it's breath work, whatever works for you. You just have to find what works for you. And I encourage everybody to experiment and do some research and find out what's out there. And even within the realms of like breath work or meditation, there are so many different techniques and aspects and all sorts of things to it. Like Jamila said, she runs,
Yeah.
I lay down when I meditate because I want to be still. Although there are some days where, like, I get up and walk around because on that day, it seems like that's what I need to do.
I want to
And
read
I find,
Andre's 2 comments here.
sorry,
Sorry,
go
Jamila.
ahead, Anissa, go ahead.
Go ahead. I can read the comments afterwards. I don't want you to lose your
I,
train of thought.
Yeah, I was just saying that, for someone who's starting off in this also, it's very important not to put too much pressure on yourself. You start off
Yes.
with simplicity and not to overwhelm yourself, because what you're trying to do is to gain consistency and to make this a lifestyle, to ingrain this within your lifestyle, I think. So even if you're starting off with, like you said, your gratitude practice, a simple thing. I appreciate that someone smiled to me today. I appreciate the coffee that I had this morning. But you got to break it down into tiny little bite sizes that you can digest well. And then you slowly start to increase it. And actually, it increases without you even being aware of it, because it literally then just becomes a part of your routine, and it becomes then a part of your lifestyle. But it's very important, I feel, to start off small, to keep it simple, and to do it continuously. And when you do that, when you uncomplicate it, it becomes easier for it to become a daily practice. So I think that's something very important, because when you go into this and you're all excited about it, you want to read every book that you can place your hands on, and then it becomes a bit overwhelming for you. It doesn't become a natural part of your life.
Well,
That's very,
yeah, like
yeah,
when you're
perfect.
treating yourself with self-care as a loved one, if your best friend was starting something new and they weren't good at it at first, would you tell them, oh yeah, just drop it? Or would you be supportive and would you say, no, try again? It's like, this is important to you. You want to
Exactly.
continue with it. Well, treat yourself the same way.
Yeah.
If you do,
The
if you
grace.
feel like it's not the right thing to do, you'll know if it's right or wrong. By how you feel. But if you feel like it's not the way that you want it to be, like you feel like you aren't good at it yet, keep going. You're learning.
No, I get that. And
I
so
love
many people say, I can't do meditation. It's not for me. But then they would start off with a half an hour meditation. Michael, you said you started off with this, tiny segments of it, and you build on, and you increase it to what you feel you need and require at the time. So it's really important, even if you're taking out 1 minute in the day, nothing is too insignificant or too small for it to make a difference in your life, as long as you create that consistency going forward. And it's when you break it down into those small bite-sized chunks that it becomes easier for you to implement and to grow on.
Yeah.
I'm going to read Andre's comments again, so that we don't ignore these powerful gems coming through. Thank you, Rio, for joining us on the Instagram page. He says, yet we emotional beings, we always look for the acceptance of others, as this acceptance gives one the courage to be. Sad part is we never the true self, as we're always searching for that acceptances. Yet if we accept the self, love the self, and just give the self that gratitude. Then he says, meditation can be done any place at any time. Best time to meditate is when the mind starts racing or someone upsets you at the office. One can sit at your office desk and start with breathing and let go all the anxiety as well as the anger. So I concur completely with that. I love the idea of these little bit of increments, because that's almost creating new pathways, new neural pathways in the mind that we now can connect and elevate along with. Because ultimately, what happens, as we both have said, is that the change is not sustainable. And then transformation doesn't happen. And we go back into the old habits that Michael was saying is important that we cultivate it as a habit. Now, we have 6 minutes remaining, and I want to leave this to you, Michael. is there any particular thing that you want to share with this audience today that was life-changing for you in any shape or form, where you changed your mindset, where you incorporated practice? How did you integrate all of these, being mindful, giving yourself grace, living from a place of gratitude?
While I was learning to do all of this, learning how to be kinder to myself, learning how to create that space of development within myself, I heard a saying from Preston Smiles, who is a fairly well-known coach. And I've heard him say this a couple of times, and it has really taken to heart for me. So I would love to share it. And it is, the saying goes, I am whole and complete and enough as I am, but I am unfinished.
Mm.
So for me, that holds such power, that yes, I am complete, I am whole as I am right now in this moment of time, but I still have work to do. I still have things that I can improve because I'm unfinished.
Mm.
So I think if
Yeah.
people learn to embrace that type of attitude, that everyone would really benefit.
Mm. I love that. I love the fact that you mentioned that about being unfinished, because we are a work of art that's in constant change, right? We never get to that space. I mean, this destination is something that we continue to look towards getting to. But our journeys are never complete, because there's always something new to learn. And Anissa, the more we learn, the more we realize that there's so much more to learn, and there's so much that you don't really know. And it's the same with our relationships with people. They're dynamic in their nature, they're constantly changing, and we are, along with it, we are changing. And that's the beauty of life, I find, is that at any stage in your life, there's always so much that's there for you to learn on, and to grow, and to just become a more positive and a more better person than you are today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anissa, what
Michael,
are
what
your
would you tell the
thoughts?
audience? I want to just give the last bit of time to Michael, because I don't know when we're going to have him on again, given that it's so early there for him. So I want to throw it right back at him again, and ask you really to share with us, what would you tell your younger self today?
Mm. Just to keep going, that it will get better, that you will be able to learn, I think is the most important thing. If we keep an attitude of learning, of exploring, of adventuring, this, when I
Mm.
spoke before about the word get, like we get to do things, it turns things into an adventure, when you're thinking about it in those terms. So like, have adventures. That's really what I'm trying to live my life as now, is I want to be adventurous, and if that means that I have a good time going to the grocery store, then I'm going to have a good time going to the grocery store. I don't have to climb mountains in order to have an adventure.
I love that. That's beautiful. So we almost at the top of the hour. I want to close off and summarize and say that when you get that call to adventure, accept it, even though it doesn't yet feel safe and secure and known, and you don't know what to expect. It is, grab that opportunity, because you have no idea what's lying on the other side of that for you. And on that note, I want to say, Michael, really thank you for the many gems, the humility that comes through when you speak. And yes, there was pursuit of that pain in your journey, because now you are showing up for others today and sharing your story with others so that we can too learn and take as much that we can from your experiences. Thank you from my side. I'm going to go over to Jamila to end off.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for sharing. And I certainly feel grateful for that, because there's so much wisdom in your story and in your journey, and so many little nuggets that I can take from it and learn from it. So I think also just my message to everyone is to be grateful for everything that you have in your life. Be kind to yourself and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, especially of change, because that's what we're here to do. This is what we've been placed here to do, is to constantly change and to grow and to become better versions of ourselves. So thank you so much for spending your time and for this early morning visit with us. We really, truly are grateful for that. And we hope that we will see you back on our podcast in the foreseeable future.
Well, thank you
Your
so
side,
much.
Michael.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me. I had a lovely time. It's wonderful talking with you ladies. And I hope your weather gets a little better.
It is cold here. On that note, Michael, do stay with us. We're going to end the live, and we just do a short debrief afterwards. Thank you for those that have joined us a little bit late again, Zainu, on your side. But thank you for being here. Do watch the replay and catch Michael's many golden nuggets and wisdom that he shared with us today. And I'm going to say thank you for those that have joined us on LinkedIn and on YouTube. I'm sorry that the comments didn't filter through today, but we will attend to them as we end, after that we've ended the live. Thanks so much for joining.